Welcome, viewer, wherever you are. It's yet another time, another moment that we find this time and opportunity to be here in a studio with guests that are going to be speaking more solemnly today about the demise of Mwai Kibaki, the third president of the Republic of Kenya, who is gonna be laid to rest. And I mean, it's a time that the entire country is engulfed in some kind of celebration of sorts. Some people also are trying to come to terms with this. Some are also saying, well, this is a journey that has been well taken and is deserved, and therefore we release him to the angels and to the heavens to go and rest. Yes, it's a time, it's a day that Kibaki has just been laid to rest, and we want to get into what perhaps shaped Kibaki's legacy, what again gave Kibaki what he is. Yes, for starters, Kibaki was known to be a very bright student. He grew up in a very needy family, but then he metamorphosed into somebody who today is a global icon, if not an African statesman. And that's why he got that befitting kind of send-off. And to delve much into this, I want to rope in Pandits here who will discuss Kibaki's legacy, and not only legacy, we also want to know perhaps where did Kibaki go wrong, because as a human being there are points that sometimes you read here and there, but all in all, his life is a classical manifestation of a life well lived of servanthood to the public. And this is what we want to delve in so much, and I'll bring in my guests here today, who, as usual, on my right is a very known guy. He's somebody who's been in this show for long. However, on my left is a pretty new face, and I'll give them time to introduce themselves in this show, and then we'll kick off from there immediately. Yes, on my right, I want to welcome you to the show. Please inform our viewers.
Thank you, viewers. Thank you, Nick, for hosting me for once. Actually, I've really taken time without
it's long.
This,
it's long.
This channel, but it's good. I appreciate that. Thank you, and viewers. Actually, I think it's going to be a very good discussion. I know that we've lost one of us. I'm Samson Ojai, also director of Bomas of Kenya, and also a member of ODM Kenya. Thank you for hosting me, and I think viewers will have time to discuss.
Thank you. Welcome. On my left.
Yeah, I'm Rogers Mogaka, UDA Youth Leader. Thank you so much for hosting us, and we are looking forward to have a robust discussion on Kibaki legacy and his shortcomings. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Rogers, and we'll start immediately, and we want to get to a point where we look at Kibaki in his holistic personality, where we see Kibaki coming out, as a demonstration, rather, or a manifestation of what life is supposed to be for an individual. You begin sometimes solo, grow, then become even bigger, and then you get to be welcomed and be accepted by entirely the whole continent, if not the whole world. Just what is it that Kibaki did right for his kind of accolades that he's getting right now as he rests?
Kibaki is a perfect definition of progress, because looking at his life, he started from low, went to very tiny school in Nyeri, came to Nyeri High, then A-levels at Mangu, went to Makerere, got first class honors, a record that has never been broken to date, went to London School of Economics, where he chose himself. They were being given scholarships to study anywhere in UK. So he chose London School of Economics, and if you check London School of Economics, it has produced the most presidents in the world, even in Kenya here. If you look at Kenyatta, Kibaki, they're all alumni of London School of Economics. While at London School of Economics, he was the first African to graduate with the Bachelor of Science in Finance and Public Policy. First black and first Kenyan to graduate in that field. So it's a perfect example of progress. And anywhere he went, he made made perfect change in terms of whether private, as a lecturer, and public service. So while in Uganda, he was a marketing manager, I guess, at Shell East Africa. From there went to Makerere, and at Shell East Africa, he performed very well in terms of building a better foundation for Shell Africa to establish its business in East Africa Protectorate. Then from there, KIBAKI was a lecturer at Makerere. Then he came, Jaramogi spotted him, he came and became executive director of Cardinal. So from there he progressed. Everywhere he went, he was also part of the people who authored the session of paper number 10 of 1965, together with Tom Mboya. So for me, if we had KIBAKI as president in the 90s, then we had Tom Mboya as president in the 80s and 70s. Then Kenya could be very, very far, looking at in terms of how he expanded the economy, he expanded the tax revenue collection, and reduced the rates for business to thrive. So it's a perfect example of progress. That is my take.
Well said. At least you've given us a profile, a chronology of KIBAKI's times during his time in school. It's also interesting that he was the first person that an African, for that matter, who graduated in London School of Economics with the bachelor's in finance, and that must be telling of somebody who's a serious trailblazer and a very good role model. Yes, Samson.
I agree with Rogers about that. The history of KIBAKI, from actually school up to where he started working and all that. But another thing which I respect the man is about, he was actually not loud. He's a good listener. Somebody you'd listen to, he would listen to you when you're talking to him, and actually take your word serious. If it's not for that idea, he will just tell you that no, that one can't work. I remember when there was a by-election in Taveta. That was, I think, back in 1994, when Mwalulu was elected and they were vying, against the government person by the name, the lady was Naomi Shaban. And I was really with Mwalulu, and Professor Kibuda Kibwana. It forced me actually not to share, because I was the young person with Mwalulu, because Mwalulu was still young. And I remember we were sharing together with KIBAKI. And when we were discussing, you could see somebody who's actually now ready to discuss, listening and actually contributing, not because of for bad reason, but he wanted actually also advising us young people. So I love him for that. Well, in terms of economics, I saw him after taking leadership in 1992. He came up with a mechanism whereby people who are evading paying tax, we could now see. In 2002, that is now 2003. He came up, and actually the people who are evading paying tax, we could see now we are collecting good monies. And maybe in terms of now development, he had a vision for this country. And it's a challenge that also our politicians need to learn from KIBAKI. Not only that think that he's a hero, but there are some things, despite the fact that there are some weaknesses which are also there. But the positive is that actually even presidency, we need somebody who is not loud as such, so that he can listen to the people also there for the betterment of a nation. So he's a role model, and I only urge maybe some people also to learn from actually what actually he has done. Despite the fact that there are some shortcomings which we are going to discuss, but he has done his part as a person. And I think also it helped him because of his character to survive in Kenyatta regime, in Moi's regime, and actually becoming president in 2002.
It's true. There's something I forgot. The Queen sent his condolences in the morning. You know, when the Queen sends his condolences in the morning to the family, that tells you who KIBAKI was, because of his background. You know, you cannot just walk into London School of Economics and study. You must be somebody who is who is very unique and top cream.
True to the fact, and this has been demonstrated by the kind of leaders that we saw throng our country. In fact, the neighboring country of Tanzania actually declared 2 days mourning for Kibaki, all flags at half-mast, and President Samia Suluhu Hassan talking so fondly about Mzee Kibaki and his time. It means for sure that Kibaki was an epitome of excellence in leadership in most of our African states, and it is being told just by the way people are showing up, how people are doing things with Kibaki. Now, if we look at Kibaki in terms of policy formulation, Kibaki as a minister in Kenyatta's government, down to when he was minister in Moi's government, just what are these particular points that we would pick out as having been points of success when Kibaki was at the helm of any other ministries, perhaps Ministry of Finance and even health at one point?
As I remember, Kibaki was assistant minister to planning. As an assistant minister, you cannot do much because you have to report to your boss. His boss was Tom Mboya, so most of the things Kibaki was doing, but Tom Mboya was to approve. Then when you come to Kenyatta's, Moi's government, when he was in 1964, I guess, no, 69, he was secretary to Treasury. That time also we saw, history tells us that we had so much in terms of revenue collection. When he was Minister for Health, also he could not do much because now Moi was also there. But in terms of policy formulation, Kibaki had the best brains to form policies in any ministry was given. Any ministry was given. Like now, universal healthcare, the issue of NHIF. These are things that he drafted when he was Minister of Planning, Assistant Minister of Planning during Tom Mboya's and Kenyatta's government. So these things were being implemented when actually Kibaki was a Minister for Health. When he was at planning, these are the guys who brought, who actually emphasized on social security fund, borrowed from the United States through JF Kennedy, through Mboya. Mboya, remember, was a very close friend to JF Kennedy. Then they implemented it here in Kenya, but it didn't do much until when now Kibaki came into power in 2002. That is when the sector started thriving so much. But during Moi's time, it was an avenue of corruption. That is where Kenya Jilongo and everybody were getting their money from. Yeah. So in terms of policy formulation, there are policies that Kibaki formed when he was, as a public servant, that we will never ever be done away with in terms of implementation. Yeah, it will be there permanently for us to reap the benefits.
Yes, maybe. Samson, what in terms of policy would you point out as having been some of Kibaki's landmark successes? Because we know Kibaki, in his time in the public service, is such a long time, and he must have really contributed immensely in making people have what we have in terms of policy, especially economic policies. He's talked about even the social protection policy, but even economic policies and financial policies that perhaps he made.
As Rogers has put it, I don't know why he's also talking about in Moi's regime, but he's not telling us why. Because even in Moi's regime, remember the intellectual kind of capability would have not demonstrated it. People who tried, actually, people like Kinouko, we know exactly what happened. I think somebody like Saitoti died without actually demonstrating what he has because of the regime which was there. So despite the fact that there are so many, like seasonal paper, some of us, unless we are going through reading seriously, we can tell what is in the seasonal paper number 10. Majority of people do not know what is there in the seasonal paper number 10. And unless we pick some of the things, then we see actually and give them life, then you can see actually this thing working. In other words, there was brain. But in Kenyatta regime and Moi regime, first of all, even if you are learned, the thing was that actually keep your education aside, follow Nyayo. And Nyayo was actually the mother of corruption and all that. So how was Kibaki surviving? Despite the fact that he had all these ideas, there was no avenue for him actually to demonstrate what his worth. And that's what I was talking about, somebody like Saitoti. Saitoti was a serious person who actually had brain, which would help combining together with Kibaki, would go far as a nation in terms of policy formulation and all that. But we didn't get it right because of the regime. Where do we now see Kibaki? We are only seeing Kibaki now in 2002, coming up with a mechanism on how to actually boost economy, to make economy now thrive. So we are saying that because of, he was now the man in the throne, as opposed to actually looking for or behind somebody else. So what am I saying? Yes, he had some ideas, but because he knew how to navigate around and actually be good within the gallows, he survived for that long. But in 2002, you remember after multi-party now, Section 2A, he was coming to join opposition, but he was not a serious player. That's why the name fence-sitter. But I think also fence-sitting helped him a lot to attain, when Kibaki Tosha concept came, he was actually in a position, nobody will say no to Kibaki. And I think that one actually helped him to do that. But we are saying, as he has put it, there are policies which we can't forget, we'll still remember Kibaki. I don't know the beauty of cost sharing, help. He came up with that one. I cannot poke holes into it, actually, in terms of, because I don't know what were the beauty or bad side of it. But politically, sometimes when you're in the opposition, you could actually take all concept and throw it out because the opposition wanted actually to take power. That's what I can say.
And I wanted to put just emphasis on something. The difference between the three presidents, the late three presidents, that is Moi, Kenyatta, and now Kibaki.
Oh, now we don't have any surviving former presidents now.
Yeah.
Oh, funny.
Retired.
Now we don't have any retired president surviving right now.
Yes. So the difference, Moi and Kenyatta, there was no difference because they really emphasized on patriotism, and you see, patriotism at that time was very important because of clamor for independence. But now when Kibaki came in, now he came with the issue of economy. How now do we make our economy thrive and be the biggest, Kenya become an economic hub in East and Central Africa. So that was the difference.
Now, if before we go for this short break, I don't know, is it important also to mention that Kibaki was not a politician per se? Because what we understand and what we know as politicians, typically in this country, what they are, Kibaki didn't epitomize that in his deeds, and he did not even come out openly as a politician. Most of the times you look at Kibaki and then you arrive at a place where you look at a technocrat. You didn't see a politician in him. Yet, he navigated these murky waters of politics through and through until he became the President of the Republic of Kenya. Just what must have been his good secrets for this?
What I can say, Kibaki is very cunning. Was a very cunning politician. Because you could not read his mind. That is why you see you are saying that he was not your common politician. And how did he survive?
Yeah.
He survived because he was a very clever politician. Even there is another guy, the first ambassador to Washington DC, Burudi Nabwera, described Kibaki as a very clever cabinet minister. So he was very clever, and being clever does not mean being cheeky. You study how the environment is and see how you survive.
You look for opportunities.
Yes.
in a situation where somebody thinks there are no opportunities at all.
Then you survive. Like now, people say that it is Raila who made the Kibaki president. But you see, Kibaki was strong as a politician because he was the first. By the way, Kibaki in 1992 got 1 million votes, over 1 million votes, and it was his first attempt in politics, in vying for presidency. Yeah, 97 he got almost around 2 million votes. when we came to 2002, he had a formidable team. NAC was a formidable team. NAC, not NAC, the National Rainbow. NAC, that is National Alliance of Kenya, that comprised of Ngilu, KIBAKI, and Kijana Wamalu. Yeah. So that was SDP, Ford Kenya, and BP. It was a very formidable force. Yeah. So people like Raila just joined the river. Yeah.
They had no option.
They were tributaries. They had no option, because whether they went where KIBAKI was destined to be president. Yeah. So he survived, and he knew how to consolidate his base, because for a very long time, Meru community has followed KIBAKI almost all his political life. And you know, Meru community is over 1 million votes. Yeah. Plus there now Nyeri and a section of like Kipia and a section of Nakuru. They end up to around 2 million. So KIBAKI knew how to study politics, create opportunities where people did not see opportunities, and that is how he survived. But the shortcoming of KIBAKI in terms of politics is when Parpai, when Kijana Wamalwa, when Bonaya Godana died. That is when now KIBAKI's politics started to become weak. Even that is the time now the Railas of this world started now bashing KIBAKI, not honoring MOU. Yeah. Even now in terms of politics, KIBAKI never had appointment anywhere in Kenya, apart from Central.
But me, I think what I can say, number one, I never loved politics of KIBAKI, but he survived. Number one, in 1992, KIBAKI is the one who prolonged the opposition actually taking leadership by actually Moi and the Kenyatta family starting DP. Actually, it's in the record. This is not a lie. And then
it's Moi and the Kenyatta family
coming up the DP actually as a party.
Democratic Party.
Yes, and the idea was actually to make sure that Jaramogi goes the other side, KIBAKI this side, and Matiba also. So he made Moi actually to survive that, and also happened in 2005 when the Wako report again. After bombers of Kenya in terms of constitution, we are taking a different direction. No reform, no election, and all that. We are coming with a document. Again, people went to Kilifi. You see such kind of a thing. Now coming back, KIBAKI had its own way of doing things. So he prolonged this journey for that much, because if he left us actually getting that...
Which journey? The journey to arrive at a new constitution, or the journey to get democracy?
The issue is not about new constitution, getting a new Kenya. The Kenya which actually the Bible we had is only that document. He prolonged that journey in the sense that if we left bombers of Kenya, I was among the people together with Njoya who went to court to block the idea of actually people starting poking holes from the holes, from that document which come out of bombers. Why? Who wanted that? Is actually the president who was there, the sitting president. So what I'm saying, he prolonged that journey till we got it 2010. Even though now people are saying he gave us that constitution. No, the Kenyan people would not allow KIBAKI actually to be with an old document. We wanted a new order. And actually, we are giving it all to an individual as opposed to the civil society, the people. You are part of that, I remember, Nick, when you were running down the street, making sure that actually we have a new constitution. Yeah. So he did that again in 2002, in 2007, post the election violence, actually, because from where I sit, you know my position. I participated in this program when I was saying I don't believe that I don't know the reason why Raila did not become the president in 2007, because he won squarely. That was not a good political hygiene, which we need actually to, and as a young person, younger than actually our people who want to become the president, we are not actually supporting such kind of idea, because Raila won that election squarely. The reason why he did not become the president is debatable. You know my position. It's debatable. Yeah. Okay,
that's sorry for another time. Well, Kibaki seems to have gotten away, or should I say getting away with it. He seems to have mastered the art of, having people from different sides, from two extreme sides, converging together and again diverging at the same time. But he remained there to hoist the flag so high, the flag of Kenya, to where it is today. Like Ojeo says, there are places that, like he says, Kibaki delayed the birth of the new constitution. Kibaki delayed the process of democracy by having played a role that was not so significant in us building a cohesive system to bring in multipartism in 1992 and not in 1997 as well. And again in 2005, the Kilifi draft versus the Bomas draft, and eventually in 2010 is now the guy who carried all the credits for all this that must have been seen like his way of sabotaging the process.
I want to...
How did he just do this?
No, as I told you, Kibaki is very clever. But I want to disagree with Jay on one thing, that he did not delay the process. Because if we wanted to have a new Kenya, Matiba would have stuck with Jaramogi during the Ford times. Because the split of Jaramogi and Matiba, and Martin Shikuku, I guess, and Matiba, that is the time the opposition split. Because Ford was a very formidable force that there was no way Moi would have won elections in 1992. And it had a very brilliant people like Mwite, Kiraitu Murungi, James Orengo. And you see that is the difference between Jaramogi and Raila, because Jaramogi gave us left for us leaders. And those leaders
But I think I didn't want to take that direction.
Okay,
I didn't want to take that direction
because...
Okay, let him have his time,
Okay, let me finish. So, during that time, the people who delayed for us to have a new Kenya, as Ojeo says, is Matibas of this world and Shikokos of this world, not Kibaki.
Not Kibaki.
I can explain that.
Now, when it comes also to we had IPPG. This is now when Kibaki was opposition leader after now 1992 IPPG. In fact, Kibaki wanted IPPG to be implemented almost immediately, but who delayed the process? Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga went with his MPs and shot down the IPPG in Parliament with around 25 MPs. Yeah. Now, in 2002, after now Kibaki has taken power, because all this process, even for us to have a new constitution, political power is very important, because political power breeds now what we call political goodwill in a document for it to do what to pass, and that is what we saw in 2010. Now, 2002, that is the time now people like Ojeo were abusing the president, and the president did nothing. Because
what are you saying?
Just
What are you saying? Which president?
Because no, President Uhuru. Not Kibaki. Because
President Kibaki.
Yes, because
where did we get power? Where was Ojeo?
Did we get power?
Wait first. Because Kibaki was breeding democracy. You can abuse the president and nothing is done to you. But but Moi, if you could abuse Moi's special branch was on you.
Nick, can I do something right?
Now,
allow me to do something
in terms of democracy,
in
terms of democracy and just having that freedom of speech and association and assembly, we started seeing it during Kibaki's time, as opposed to...
Can I shed more light on something?
You will come and shed more light after you come from the break, because I know Ojeo is burning to give a rebuttal on that, owing to the fact that perhaps he's been into the trenches and knows so much about the new order and its agitation. Yes, viewer, wherever you are, it's the Cardinal Talk Show. We are going for a short break. When we come back, like you see, like you hear, it's already getting so hot, and guys are now now differing again on this very particular person who is Mwai Kibaki, who today we say is one of the best brains that we ever had in this country, and like he says, actually made it possible for democracy to flourish. Though Jay will tell you it is them in the trenches who brought democracy. I don't know how it happens. Let's go for the break and we'll discuss it when we come back. Welcome, viewer. If you're joining us right now, it's Cardinal Talk Show. You're on the second segment of this discussion, and as you know, this is where we talk it the way it is. This is where we look at it in Cardinal lenses, and we want to pick every bit and pieces of all this. And that's why today we are dissecting Kibaki's profile, wanting to understand and know very well just who was this guy from Modaya? Why is he so great? Or therefore, why is he also being considered to have fallen by the roadside in a few areas? Otherwise, it's all discussion, nothing personal, nothing hard. We are only doing a review of a glamorous life led by one Stanley Emilio Mwai Kibaki from 1931 all the way to 2002. Quite some time. Ojayo, you are thinking differently.
Yeah.
You wanted to answer Roger's here in non-certain terms that perhaps the Kibaki don't participate so much in building democracy.
Yes, I want to say this, Rogers. There's something which I share with Ruto. One in 1992.
Which Ruto?
Ruto,
the deputy president.
Yeah, I have a reason why I'm saying that.
Just
deputy president.
Or to be specific.
Yeah, deputy president. I know you love that one. Deputy president. There's something we share. Ruto was actually in Youth for Kanu 92, who was actually gagging us from getting a new Kenya. I was actually in Ajib House, the youngest person, in Operation Moi Out, who was that was a movement within Fort Kenya.
By 92 already in this thing?
Yes, I was there when Jaramogi was still alive.
In Ajib House?
In Ajib House.
We only read about Ajib House.
Yes, I was there. So when I'm talking...
Is Ajib House still present?
Ajib House is still present, I think.
Where is it?
Ajib House remained in the same street next to... What it's ours? That actually in... how do you call this?
Pension Towers. Not Pension.
Thames Towers.
Thames Towers. Yes, there's a petrol down there. So that's the Ajib House. Now, my point is that now, I do not need to refer in any other book to read. I know exactly what happened. Remember, Matiba was sick outside the country. And you remember the famous idea of let the people decide? There are people who left this country, led by Professor Bibi, to go and tell Matiba, come back, the people are with you. Those people did not have money. The state, actually, today you talk about, how do we call them today? There's a narrative which is being created here about this election. The state agents there.
The deep state.
Now today you call them deep state. They were only NIS and all that, doing all these things to make sure that Matiba would come and actually see the people. That actually was a creation of the government. What was Kibaki back then? Kibaki was not actually even with Akina Matiba and Jaramogi. So meaning that this was a scheme which was well crafted, and Kibaki accepted that actually, and that's why when I'm saying Kibaki accepted to have DP. What was the constituency of Kibaki? Yes, he got that 1 million the way you're putting it. There's no problem on that. But actually, he ate that 1 million out of Matiba's what? But they made sure Sikuku and Matiba was not with Jaramogi. So it was a scheme. That's what I'm simply saying. He prolonged this process. I get that. Because of his nature of fence-sitting. Yeah? Even though he was one of the intellectuals who will help this country to move ahead, we never realized that Kibaki, the person inside, why? Because he was a fence-sitter and actually prolonging the struggle, reaching where we are. Yes, I agree that you are talking about Raila also contributing into it, but what we are discussing now is about the life of Kibaki, as we are discussing. So Kibaki also had his own shortcoming, and he survived because he could not go in front. He was behind the scene all the time, making decisions whether good or bad.
Guys, in the circles of politics who know Kibaki during that time, or people perhaps who are his protagonists, antagonists, say Kibaki was General Kigwaya. General Kigwaya meaning was somebody who was not brave. He wasn't brave enough to face matters the way they were supposed to be faced. And you say here he was a fence sitter. Does it go to explain exactly that Kibaki was not brave enough to take the bull by the horns and would love other guys to go ahead, and then he follows from behind?
You know, when I talked about when we were going for by-election in Taveta, I think when Criticos left, Basil Criticos left that seat of MP of Taveta. Personally, me, Kibwana, and Mwalilu, we visited Kibaki. And when we went to Kibaki saw another young boy. You know, he could not comprehend that Mwalilu is the one we are taking. And he asked Kibwana candidly, why not you? You know, it was like, he was not seeing somebody. And that's nature. So he instructed people like Akinanyaga then to give us the ticket so that we go.
For DP?
Yeah, so we went with the DP there. And I remember the MP was there taking the lead in that campaign was Karisa Maida and this guy from Voi town. There was an MP there. There was an MP in Voi. After realizing that now, not Mwandawiro, there's a I've forgotten the name. So this Mwakiringo. Yes, Mwakiringo was the one in the Voi. So I was there, Kibwana, Mwakiringo, and Kibaki realized that actually Mwalulu had clout. After 2 weeks of campaign, he had to come. When now Nyaga and Mwenje was now, in fact, we can get this seat. And even when we were sitting there, he was just there. He was not making any decision. We are meeting another place known as Chala Chumvini. So what am I saying? He never rushed into a conclusion. Making decisions becomes sometimes a problem. But if it's a good decision, Kibaki will buy. And then he goes with it. But you will not hear him actually championing it. He will be beyond the scene doing the same thing. So that is Kibaki for you.
At least he brushed shoulders with Kibaki in that, yeah. And that's a verifiable moment, yeah, for him and Kibaki. And like he says, Kibaki loved staying behind and let guys go ahead, and then he would join them at the hour of need.
Yes, and you see, a perfect definition of that is how he handled Raila in his last term. You can beat Kibaki on propaganda, you can beat Kibaki in terms of mobilization, but on technicalities you can't beat Kibaki. You cannot, because he will put a powerhouse that will handle you technically. if you try to look at KIBAKI in 2002, after the MOU, how he handled that issue. He handled that issue very technically, that he brushed it away, and later Raila complained, and nobody was giving Raila audience. Yeah, even going to State House was a bit difficult for Raila to get appointment with the president so that they could discuss the issue of MOU. So he built up house like people like Akina Mwiraria, yeah, Chris Murungaru, to gag Raila. Look at 2008, after in the coalition government. Yes, we have a document that says that Raila is, President cannot do anything in government without consulting whom? Consulting Raila. So, Raila thought he had powers now to decide, because the government was, he was a co-president. But look at how Raila was suffering in terms of technicalities. The head of public service then, Francis Mudaura.
Ambassador Francis Mudaura.
Ambassador Francis Mudaura, correct. Ambassador Francis Mudaura. One memo for Ambassador Francis Mudaura could make Orengos of this world to make press conferences up to midnight. One cabinet memo. That could tell you that on technicalities you couldn't beat Raila. So he had to rope in people like Ruto to break the Pentagon, people like Balala, people like Joe Nyaga to break the Pentagon to make Raila weak. And that is how Raila lost it in coalition government, because anything he said, he was not given an audience. But there was only one thing that KIBAKI gave in. Two. One is the sacking of Ruto. Even after reinstating Ruto, he later sacked him in consultation with Raila. Second was the appointment of the Chief Justice and the Deputy Chief Justice. Yeah, those are the only things that KIBAKI gave him. But the rest, in terms of running of government in consultation with Raila, I don't know what.
Yeah.
He never. But he ran the government successfully.
It was such a noisy administration where it was lamentations, over lamentations, and we know that. Yes, that is it. And a viewer, it is 90 good solid years of Stanley Emilio Mwai KIBAKI, who today goes with that very sterling record of having been one of the best economic minds that we people perhaps are lucky to have bred, and maybe we are lucky to have seen in our lifetime. And we say just thank you for the people of Othaya, for everybody who gave us Mwai KIBAKI, because it was a moment to cherish. It's been a moment to cherish, and we shall never forget, because what he did remains etched into the memories of generations to come. And those who are not here today will read it one day and know that the third president of the Republic of Kenya was such a gentleman of Kenyan politics, but then he was also a very big giant of administration, like they say. And for that reason, I want us to change a little bit and look at the events that they are right now about politics that we people are into. Samson Ojeo, you are ODM, you are a director, you are in UDA, and these two parties actually are the parties that have the biggest programs in terms of nominations that ended a week ago, and by now names have been submitted to IEBC. All political parties by now must have submitted the names to the IEBC, and then now it is now the turn of independents to do their bit from May 2nd up to around about 12th May, so that IEBC would have names of all contestants in these elections to start preparing for the elections. However, one sticky point that remains here and is becoming a sore injury into our conscience as a people is that our political parties cannot and will never, perhaps, I don't know, conduct party primaries. This thing is just out of our hands. Each method we want to employ each election year boomerangs into something else. It snowballs into chaos, mistrusts, very many careers broken, people live there dejected, we are looking at disappointments, we are looking at hue and cry from every corner, and it's completely uniform in all these outfits. Nobody's even doing it better. just what is wrong. Is this the only time or the only point where our democracy has refused to grow?
Nick, I've been into this program, and you know my position about political party. Apart from the name political party, I normally say it, and I put it the way it is, and let it be the record for younger generation to come. We don't have political parties in this country. We have soaping baskets of some tribal chiefs who have marshaled their tribe behind them.
Just a minute.
Yes.
You are speaking as an ODM member.
No, listen to me.
I'm just asking.
I agree.
You are speaking as
I
an
agree.
ODM member.
I agree.
Go ahead.
Thank you. That's why I'm saying the level of preparedness of the political party. For example, ODM came with the idea members only participating. There is no mechanism because they have a structure, purported structure from top there to the polling station, which is not functioning. The people do not even have the ideas on how to disseminate very simple information. In the called chairman of the polling station, there's no up-down kind of communication. Number two, you are talking about now people going members only. It is upon the party to recruit the members. Are you getting that? We have old men who have voted in that party for years and years. They believe that they are members. To their surprise, they've realized that they are not members. Number two, people go for the nomination that you want to be elected. You find 10 people. What have they done? Lying to people and collecting their money. Then what do? They send some 2-3 people in the polling station with funny gadget. I call it funny because even if you have your observer in that polling station, there's nothing you can note down. There's nothing because there's no screen which you are seeing this. That person's this guy have 12. 12 votes. This one have 3 votes. All that.
It's just the holder of the gadget.
It's only the holder of the gadget. And this gadget, to my surprise, the holder of gadget would not actually operate this gadget. There's somebody outside operating this gadget. They could interfere. So there was no election. There was no nomination.
Password.
The password. So what I'm saying.
Oh, that gentleman for more password. You don't know his password.
I'm very sorry to say this. That then if you are talking about you are a member of a political party, you need to be told actually to what level. Number two, why do you subject people to a nomination? Somebody go do campaigns and all that. Then you say that now, and you knew very well that you want to give process. Is it a way of actually, because this one is also a fraud kind of, you are taking people's money, then you don't order them.
you know, it's so comical. I tell you.
No, but you see,
you look at this thing and you begin just laughing because it's a comedy of sorts, you know. Because just like you said,
and they're not even apologizing.
Just like you said, somebody has been running for the last 2 years campaigning.
Imagine
on a party, and then on the last day of nominations, you don't even see anything like a nomination close to you.
Can I tell you, in my constituency, and you know you're coming in that same constituency, same constituency.
Yeah.
For heaven's sake, in 2017. We have a guy Kadiri who won actually nomination squarely, and what happened is history. Today, a guy Kadiri has done a lot, digging boreholes, doing what in that constituency. To our surprise, after these people taking a guy Kadiri and any other candidate's money, then they are calling a guy for negotiation.
I remember in Seme there was Maji.
Yes.
There was Guy Kadiri.
There was this.
There was Ndolo Aya's son.
Yes.
And Dr. Nyekal.
Dr. Nyekal. Now, Dr. Nyekal, to our surprise, we have been told there are some funny those kind of opinion poll that Dr. Nyekal was actually.
No, they said they're scientific.
Scientific, anyway, that's scientific quote that Dr. Nyekal actually was about 76. Maji was 12. Kadiri was among the others with the 12 remaining.
Among the others.
This is a joke. These are joker. And then you want to pray that people are going to Canaan. Let's us pray so that we vote on 9. No, we must sit down and agree how we want to move.
Yeah,
we must sit down.
I mean, Roger said, simply UDA. I mean, It's fiasco. I had Jaguar crying the other day and shouting, now Baba, Azimio, this somebody is in UDA today, tomorrow begins shouting Baba because of the frustrations of the nominations. I mean, how do you build formidable parties?
But did you not see Jaguar? That's what he's asking.
No, but we also saw Elisha Kumba crying.
I mean, Fatuma Mohammed in Migori, Elisha is even mind-boggling. This guy won. The returning officer pronounced him a winner. He came to the tribunal twice. Again, won in the tribunal, and then somebody says now it's up to.
Why are you shouting? Yes.
See,
just a minute. I want to look at this thing. Then somebody shouts at the NEB, a NEB that we don't know who perhaps actually appointed that this thing will be decided by NEB. Yeah. Then NEB calls your competitor, who you beat fair and square in all the occasions, and then they hand in the certificate. On the depth of the timing that you can't even now go to another party, there is no independent. And I think, before you even contribute to this, as you contribute into this also, please take with it the New Political Parties Act. Because I think this act also has come to stay for people. Because initially, if you should change here, you'll jump there and go and have your people listen to them and then represent your people the way they want you to do. I look at what is happening just, is it yesterday? Owoda of Kisumu said, Owoda lands and in Kisumu, and he says, now I've come, I'm no longer in ODM. Yesterday was in ODM. I'm no longer in ODM. I'm now an independent candidate. And the airport is thronged. And Kisumu Busia Road is thronged. Because people feel something is not right. So, and when a run comes, who actually won, you again see people are there, and then you're like, no, exactly, what is it that you're doing? You look at UDA, and then it's cry all over. I even looked at, I even watched this musician, who say Bahati. Yeah, Bahati crying to Uru ni baba yangu, baba yangu, so, I mean, all this comedy because of your political parties. Can we have parties that can really be parties in this country?
You see, in 2014, ODM made people campaign across the country. They wanted to elect party leader, deputy party leader, secretary general. I mean, the
executive.
The whole executive. And at the back of the owner of ODM, he knew there is nothing like elections. But now he just relax.
I want to talk about UDA.
Just relax.
That's not for another day because of time. Talk about UDA because you're a UDA member. He's even giving illustrations about his party. Go directly to UDA. Did UDA do what was expected of them in terms of nominations?
But now let me ask you. Let me ask you. As we did credible, verifiable nominations. Yeah. First we had ballot papers. Yeah. We had the agents across the country.
But the papers were put somewhere in Tarakaniti and in Meru banned completely, even the van.
Those were now aspirants trying to
sabotage the process.
Not sabotage the process, trying to infiltrate the process of nomination. But they were. I mean, we had Nyaga. Nyaga was called for a disciplinary action in the party. Yeah. In fact, as we had verified, we can verify because we had ballot papers. There is nowhere in this world you can go for a serious election unless it is an election, a nomination of artists to win awards. But a nomination to represent the people, you must have ballot papers. Yeah, we must have ballot papers where we manually we vote, we mark the person we want. Then it is transferred digitally. That is a normal standard practice across the world. Yeah, but in their case, the way Jay is saying, they only have tablets. They don't know even the platform they're using to do it. So as we can now. Yeah. The reason why social interaction, of course, we expect chaos to come. People disagree. Yeah. But our cases are so minimal because, let me tell you, UDA did nomination in almost 42 counties across the country. But we can hear very minimal cases. Like now, the one for Jaguar, yeah, the one for Alfred Keter. Actually, there are less than 10 cases. But in ODM, they did nomination a section of the country, yeah, a section of the country.
Actually for ODM, it's
Yes.
just a small fraction. I mean,
Yes,
not
a small fraction of the country.
Like in Nairobi, it was only two constituencies.
Two
It was in
constituencies.
Langata and Kibra
Yes.
only. There was
Yes.
no other nomination in the entire Nairobi County.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
but you can hear cries everywhere. That tells you that UDA is very much organized. We are very much organized. And you see, the way we are organized, we are forming the government because the other side is very disorganized. Because there are so many centers.
That is for another day.
Well, it's carrying that organization of theirs to ascertain their preparedness to form the next government.
Yes.
And before we just wind all this, I want us to. Do you think we need this Political Parties Act? Is it right for us? Is it okay that 3 months to elections, you already have candidates, and then people want to the elections wants to die, and again somebody will resurrect them in July? We are so busy from January to August doing one thing, elections.
Well, we need a political party act. But if there are some issues within that act which actually gagging us from actually achieving or attaining the democracy, their space,
Okay.
actually...
I'm asking, is the time taken to actually do electioneering 8 months is the ideal time for a country?
No, we don't need to take 8 months actually to go for election.
Actually, this is what we are doing.
Yeah, that's what we are doing. But you see, even the Ruto side, they campaigned for more than 5 years. Actually, they're just campaigning. The IEBC did not have power to stop them. Because...
campaigning.
You know, but you... I think
maybe,
but you are campaigning.
Okay. Time is up. Let's just get to the Political Parties Act. I know.
We need to actually to maybe change some kind of clauses which are here. But you see, who control even that political party act? The political players actually put this thing, especially the party you call party, which I call tribal chief, whatever. They are very careful because they know that they do not have power actually to control. So they want to put some things actually which can create confusion for their own benefit. Like for example, you want to go for independent. Sometimes people will not listen to you. They'll blackmail you and give you all sorts of names. So that actually the people did not want, they forced that person to be elected.
Do you think we need this Political Parties Act?
Yes, Political Parties Act is very okay because it guides on how we do our elections. But one thing, anything that is in the political parties that bars you from having freedom to vie, then that infringes your human right. Because nothing should bar you from vying. Except when you are sick or incapacitated, then you cannot buy. But nothing should stop you from buying. So there should be that window that if you are dissatisfied in this other side, you can move on the other side. Yeah.
Well,
and also I want to say that in UDA we are very democratic. We fielded 42 governors, 42 women reps across the country. We fielded 274 members of parliament, aspirants. We fielded 1,124 MCS. So that tells you where the government is going.
Well,
Are you saying that
it's time to blow your trumpet the loudest you can, because it's competition, it's a political competition. But then when you narrow it down to what the Greek talk about democracy, it's actually the rule for the people, by the people, and for the people. And when that small concept is not taken into account, then the matter democracy becomes a farce of sorts. It remains just a mere vocabulary that is not applicable in any sense, in any political sense. And we are trying as a country to grow our political democracy, and we are trying to grow also as individuals in this democratic space. And it requires that we go by the tenets of democracy. It requires that we observe every little bit and breadth of democracy. It requires that me and you must be alert to the fact that democracy involves me, you, and any other person, plus the elected leaders and the aspiring leaders. It's not business for the political class alone. You, as a citizen, has a civic duty to also ensure that our democracy flourishes. To the leaders, it's inherent upon you to provide leadership in democracy. Yes, all good democracies in the world had sacrifices. We had people who were actually chaperoning this democratic process to where it is today. We only envy other Western countries for their democracy because they made the necessary sacrifices that we guys are beginning just to lose as we go by. I cry for democracy. I hope it will work. For our guests today, thank you very much for having given so much about President KIBAKI's life journey and how sterling it was. We've parted ways with one of our best brains and gallant sons of the world and of this land, and we only wish that family that they get the peace, and now we move on as a country. For the political players out there, it's a political season, and I know my guest will be with you here Sundays to dissect more and more of this. Thank you very much, Rogers, for UDA. Thank you very much, Samson Ojiayo, Director for ODM.
Thank you.
And it's nice that you, the viewer, was with us all along, and I appreciate every moment that I've been with you, and we say, take care outside there.